Hello everyone. Welcome to today's daily sketch portrait practice. It's so nice to have you here. Hi Gabriela. We just spent an hour and a half together in Zoom. I just hosted a webinar on exploring possibilities and I really enjoyed it. I hope that those that were in attendance did as well. Hi Nana. It was really cool hanging out and sharing the practice with you. I'll show the sketches that I just did. Hi Kiki. If you're watching live, say hello in the chat. I always appreciate it and it's nice to see who's here. Hi Linda. And if you're watching the replay, I would also love you to say hello. And I'm really looking forward to doing another version of this portrait. I just did 5 drawings and I will show you because that could be interesting. And now I'm going to do a wet media, a watercolor version. So as soon as I have it ready, edited and ready to go, the replay of the webinar will also be available. So if you'd like to catch the replay, then you'll be welcome to. Make sure you join my mailing list. The link is in the description because that's where I'll be sending it out to. Hi Rachel, Kitty and Martina. So what we just did with this idea of exploring possibilities was we did 5 2-minute sketches with a different approach each time, just to view the same image in a different way. Linda, I'm about to tell you, I have a book of 1920s mugshots, and I'm about to tell you the story. So we did 5 different versions, 2-minute drawings of the same reference image. And I chose 2 of them to expand upon. The 2 that I felt were most compelling and interesting, I decided to spend more time with. Where's the 5th version? I don't know what I just did with it. But I didn't think it was as interesting as these 2. So I chose to spend more time on these. And the idea, it's almost been 140 days of daily portrait practice, which is amazing. Good morning, Corinna. Hello, Eddie. So I started on the 1st of December with this, focusing on line and light and moving into darkness for the winter solstice. And initially, that was with this one. And initially it was going to be 24 days. And then it was just so much fun. I enjoyed it so much. It was really great connecting with so many of you and practicing so much. That was just like, and also Kira was like, why don't you just keep doing it if it was so good? And I was like, oh, that's a great idea. I'm going to do this every day. So Creatures of the Maroon Lagoon. What an amazing username. Nice to have you here. So Kira was like, why don't you just keep doing it? So I have now been doing almost 140 days of daily portrait practice. And there is a link in the description where you can get the references. And you can just look at this. You can already start working if you want. And I will read you the story of Faye Watson. This photograph was taken on the 24th of March, 1928. And Faye was suspected of illegal cocaine possession. Watson was caught during a raid on a known cocaine den in the inner city of Sydney, in so-called Australia. When police burst into the room where Watson was hiding with a friend, she threw a packet of cocaine into her friend's lap, leading to both women being charged with possession. During the hearing, police described cocaine as moral poison. Watson was fined £10. That is the story. So this is an amazing book. My sister gave it to me for my 40th birthday, I think, which was two years ago. And it's an incredible series of 100-year-old mugshots from Sydney. And I've done a couple of live streams in the past where we've done 10-minute portraits inspired by these incredible faces, incredible photos. You can, if you look up on my channel, I think there is you can be in my channel and then search on my channel 1920s mugshots. You'll find them and you can draw along. Very cool, very cool. I love these photos and the stories, and just to imagine that 100 years ago, these people in the 1920s, the roaring 20s, being arrested. And some of them, it's very it's just did this person actually do anything wrong? Like, I guess it's hard to tell. I'm going to change my camera position. Excuse me. Because I'm going to be working with watercolor, and I set it up so that I'm working flat, which allows me to do different things with watercolor than I otherwise would. So yeah, let's work on this portrait. How's everyone doing? For those of you who are in the webinar, now you could tell me one word for how it was, what you got out of it. What's the one thing, the essence? I know I put you in the spot at the end of the webinar and asked you, but now if you could just be like, this one thing that you got from it, what are you going to take with you into the next piece that you do in your further explorations? That would be really interesting to know. Okay. So, another black and white photo, so we can do what we want color-wise. That's fun. And I'm going to go straight to watercolor. Wish me luck. This is not that yellow, but it is toned paper. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Hahnemuhle toned watercolor paper. Martina's word is confusion. That's good. I had this image in my mind when I was thinking of the topic for the webinar, which I didn't address the image, but it'd be interesting to talk about now. Relieving. It was a joke. Relieving. That's good. Experiment. So there's an incredible deck of tarot cards called Shadowscapes by Stephanie Law. And I was thinking about them today. And these cards, it's such incredible watercolor, like fantastical illustrations. And I remember I think it was actually before I was even on my adult art journey, I saw the paintings, I think on DeviantArt or something, was just like, whoa. Maybe I can, I'll look for the image later. But there's this one card, the 8 of Swords, and it shows a swan like in a cage of brambles, of thorns, and there is a little hummingbird just in front of the swan, in relationship with the swan somehow. The swan, this mighty great bird, is trapped within all these thorns. And kind of I think the message of the card and that image is that there's a lot of work to do with all of those thorns, but even the little hummingbird, if by piece it moves a thorn, moves a branch bit by bit, then eventually there's a solution. Once the work is done, all of the effort that will go into it, then there'll be this liberation and the great reward. And since the last few days we've been talking a lot about struggle in the practice, I was thinking that it's also the struggle and the possibility to delight in the work. We can enjoy the struggle. And that image of the swan trapped by thorns and this little bird that potentially can be of service and relieve the swan. It seems like a big undertaking, but it's possible just bit by bit. And that is like that card, and that as a life lesson, I feel like is really great. And when you said confusion, and hello, Rev222. When you said confusion, I was thinking of that it can sometimes things seem like so overwhelming. There can be so much going on that what color? Green. That it may seem confusing, but as we begin, that each thing we do provides a point of reference for the next thing that we do. and that sense of confusion through just putting in the practice and the work can lead to getting things done that we didn't know were possible. And I feel like that is pretty a cool way to think about the artistic journey of, like, there's so much to learn and there's something really compelling and wonderful about it, but it can seem like, well, how is it? This is the experience I had. I remember on that fateful day when I was feeling pretty gloomy around my 28th birthday. And I was just like, what am I doing with my life? What's the point in anything? What should I do? And I had the luxury of, like, I was pretty free, really, to choose things. But I had studied, and I studied architecture, and I was like, I don't want to do that. It just, like, it wasn't my passion. And I was in a, yeah, it was kind of like, what should I do? And I tried doing a couple of other things. I was beekeeping. I had been traveling, building flutes, which I loved, but it didn't turn out to be a thing that I could just keep doing. And there was some phase, and I was like, oh, I just don't know what to do. And that Kira said, what's the coolest thing you could imagine doing? I was like, oh, fantasy illustration. So I talked about that recently. Why did I start talking about this now? That just, I looked up to these artists that I loved so much. Yeah, that was the thing. And I was like, but I can't do what they can do. Like, they are incredible, and I love their work, and it's so inspiring, and it's not me. How could a mere mortal paint such things? That's kind of like the mindset I had. And then Kira, who's really good at teaching, was like, well, if you don't know how to do it, you find someone who's able to teach how to do it. And that led me on the path of finding teachers, finding workshops, finding ways to learn, and demystifying the whole process of, like, how is such a thing even possible? And then meeting people who can do it, and like, oh, that's how it's possible. They can do it. And then going through all these different phases of learning, different approaches, different things, and then just realizing that bit by bit, piece by piece, portrait by portrait, mark by mark, I'm learning things. It's getting better. And there was a lot of ugly paintings that I did along the way, but I kind of had the orientation, and to be like, the alignment, the desire to learn, that I was able to take the steps to figure it out. And that's where I was starting from, that it may seem confusing and overwhelming, and how is it even possible to paint? But as you, piece by piece, practice each piece, understanding something different or getting confused in a different way, that it all adds up and leads to the next step and the next piece and the next confusion or realization. It's all part of it. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Hi, Lewis, and every drawing partner. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Rave222, love this pic, but I'm still not feeling great. So I'm just here for the company once again. I'm glad to have you here for the company, and I'm honored that you hang out with us, even if you're not drawing along. It's so nice to have you here. I appreciate the company too. I don't know what color to work with. I was just like, green background, and now what? Now what? Something different. Someone tell me in the chat. I'll just put some water down. Give me a color. Lewis, you have this image from a while ago. Yes, where we did it in a series of fantastic book about Australian prisoners. That's it. We did work from this one in the past. I did a 10-minute portrait of it. And I remember when someone, because we were like, what are the crimes these people committed? And Periline Green, Kiki, nice, yeah. And Martina says, try red. Okay, periwinkle green for the dark and red for the rest. I remember Shannon saying she was arrested for the crime of being foxy. I'm pretty sure that's what Shannon said. All right. Thank you for the suggestions. Oh, red is almost an orangey color. Interesting. So here, periwinkle green. That is definitely for the dark shapes. Is that, did I even read it right? Yeah, periwinkle. Oh, Martina's now said, oh, yes, orange. Okay. Red is retracted and has become orange. Hello, Brigitte. Hello again. Nice to have you here. I really love doing webinars and workshops and Zoom stuff. And I love that I know so many of you from Zoom, or even if you didn't have your cameras on, I know that you were there. And I know just know you in some ways. Lewis came to one of my Zoom meetings once. Was it back in 2020? And even just that one meeting, that one time you were able to attend, it was a Friday morning, and it's just like, it solidified you in my mind. And I really enjoy that, that I feel like I know so many of you so well, and you've been here so often. And even if it's the first time that you're here, like Creatures of the Maroon Lagoon, I don't think I've ever read your username before, and I appreciate it very much. Rev222, there will be a replay of the webinar. If you would like to experience it in replay form, which will be up sometime soon. And once it's up, I'll be sending a newsletter out to my mailing list where I write to like once or twice a month. There's a link in the description if you want to join my mailing list. And I will be sending the replay there. And anyone who was in the webinar, I'm confused about this bit of hair here. There's like this dense darkness, but I'm like, is it? What's going on? I see it as dark. I'm just going to make it darker. Yeah, so you can share your work. I shared the reference to the Discord server. You can share your work you're doing from the Discord server. Anyone who's in the webinar, you can share your quick sketches there too, or whatever you did during the webinar. It'd be really cool to see there. And what I love about the Discord server is just the focus of seeing people sharing their work there, and it all revolves around the work we've done here together. And to see so many different interpretations of the same image is really fun. So if you would like to share your sketches in the Discord server, if you're not yet a member, please join, because it's cool. In 2020, yeah, I think it was, because I remember the room I was sitting in, and I remember looking out the window, and I think we had just moved, Lewis. So it was 2020 when you must have joined my Zoom session. And back then, in 2020, I was doing twice a week, which I would love to do Friday morning sessions again at some stage. If it's meant to be, if things align, I would love to offer a Friday morning, my time Friday morning, Zoom sessions again. They were so much fun. Arrested for being ravey. Orange. Corinna says orange too. All right. It's going to be a clear green orange thing. I don't think we've had green and orange this month. Yes, I feel like the webinar was really cool. The topic was really cool. The exploring possibilities, which is really what all of this daily practice has been about. And the focus the monthly focus of like having a theme for the month and like really focusing on sketching with watercolor this month. And I've been able to just set up all these themes, which I think would be interesting and educational for myself and for everyone who joins. And it's been super cool going through this process for almost 5 months now. At the end of April, it would have been 5 months of daily portrait practice, which is still kind of mind-blowing. And it was cool. I think it was Sally who was just in the webinar, said that she just discovered my YouTube channel last week and then came to the webinar. It's so cool. Like there are people, Lewis, I met you in 2020, and then Sally, I just met you today. And I just love the fact that we're able to connect and practice together from wherever and whenever we are, to celebrate the connective possibility that we're able to tap into. Okay, so Bayo Okamolafe a couple of days ago, and I said that Sophie Strand and Bayo had this cool conversation, and I started listening to this book called The Flowering Wand. What's The Flowering Wand? Reclaiming Sacred Masculinity, I think it's called. And it's so interesting. It's so cool. I've just been listening to it yesterday and today. It's super interesting. So, did any of you get to listen to the podcast after we sketched what by Okamolafe? I think that was what it's called. Yeah, very interesting book. Rachel says, drawing this portrait now feels a lot easier and more familiar after doing 6 practice drawings in the webinar. I know, isn't it fascinating? Like once you get acquainted with a face. And do a few versions. I think it's a fascinating process. I love doing like a different piece every time, but it can be so interesting to really just get into like focus on one face in so many different iterations, different explorations. Such a cool process. All right, orange. Transparent orange. I think this color is called. Yeah, the book, it's so interesting. There's so much in there. It's basically, so the conversation in the podcast was so interesting. And it's just like, so it's talking about, I'm really interested in mythology and biology and so many things, and there's a lot of talk about mushrooms and Dionysus, and it's so interesting. So I had this this interesting thought some years back of how it seems pretty clearly that there are certain aspects of life and being alive as a human that by the church and political institutions is like suppressed and demonized and has led to a lot of unpleasant things happening. And this book about reclaiming sacred masculinity, I had this idea years ago where it's like, So somehow it seems I grew up going to church in Australia. My parents, it was only when I was young that they started going to church. And so Dad met some people, and they were, the grandfather of this family had passed away, and he'd photographed them. And so he'd photographed the granddad, and he was alive. And then when he went for the viewing, and this was back in the 80s, the viewing to show them the images, he'd passed away, but the family was so happy. And he was so kind of confused and amazed. And he was like, he asked them, like, how can you be so happy? You all seem so well, so happy. And they just had faith that in their, their belief system that it was not a bad thing that he was dead, because of their Christian beliefs had given them the comfort to be like, it's okay, dying is okay. And Dad was like, this is kind of like confusing and amazing, and this is something that I would like to be able to share, pass on this kind of... What I thought about today, I was thinking about this, I think what he saw and what he wanted to share, because then we started going to church and grew up in the church, and then as a teenager, there were things about the institution that we were in where I was just like, this doesn't feel right, doesn't make sense to me. But I appreciate all the singing in my childhood and the community, and there's a lot of aspects which I feel like are really valuable. And I was thinking about it today, and I think what he saw, what my dad saw, and what he wanted to share with us was a connection to the eternal. I think that was like a comfort, and who doesn't want that? So I grew up in church, going to church every Sunday, singing, hanging out with all these kids, and it was fun. Like, it was there was a lot of music, I remember, and there was a lot of community. But the thing was, if you disagreed with some of the things that they talked about, then you were kind of out of the community. And as I grew up and was making my own decisions and learning about a lot of things, there were things that I was kind of like, nah, I don't know about this. So what I'm trying to say is that I feel like the institution of the church has like basically severed people from a direct experience of the eternal and of world denying. I would say that is the thing that the vibe I got from the church was that it's world denying. And if you live in a world denying paradigm, then it's okay to mess up the world in some way, because after we're dead it's going to be better, and that is not something that I vibe with. And so I went through this thing of being like, oh wow, like, it's very patriarchal. What is the role of women in church and in the Bible and all this stuff? And then I was like, okay, there's kind of this like denial of the world and of our bodies, and at some point it seemed really clear, oh, there's, what is the role of women in the Bible? And then at some point it was like, but what about men as well? That there's a certain, and there's a spectrum. It's not about being a man or a woman or in between. There is this whole kind of also the sacred masculinity. This idea in this book, it is not about being a man. It is about a kind of principle in the world, and there are certain ideas and things about how we relate to the world that have been stifled and cut off and demonized, literally demonized. And and this is something that I found really interesting coming to Europe and being like, oh, what's going on? All the old stories and stuff, I think it's really interesting, and visiting places like where fairy tales are from and being like, what is the story of this place? And there's so much about the connection to nature and these wonderful, like, nature is something wonderful to preserve and to live with, and to realize we are nature. And I feel like in a lot of ways that these big institutions have separated us from our direct experience of the divine and of nature. And so it's interesting in this book. So something's really interesting that it's saying is it's called The Flowering Wand. And that often, and I was talking about tarot earlier. Hello, Ulverine. There is the sword, the swords, which is spades in playing cards, and there is the wand. And listening to it, I was like, the pencil is like a wand, and these are considered to be the masculine suits of cards, and then cups and diamonds, which it's like the four elements. That they represent the feminine side, and everything is kind of fluid in between. Everyone has everything within them and in everything in life and in the world. And it's really interesting to perceive stuff in that kind of spectrum. And so it's saying that in a lot of tradition and religion, that order and the sword and the intellect has been prioritized above everything else. And the way that a lot of things work, because there's a lot of things in the world that aren't working out too well at the moment, it seems. I'm happy with where I am. I'm happy that you're here sketching with me. But it's like there's a lot of seemingly large-scale things where there are a lot of problems. Oh, what color is this? This was not our agreed color. And it's like, what if we found ways to be... So this was talking about Dionysus, and that Dionysus is not a violent god, and Dionysus has been demonized in the fact that he's like, he's a drunk, has no self-control, it's all about partying and stuff. And this book is positing that it was about nature connection, it was about fluidity and movement, and that Dionysus is like an androgynous character and is actually, it's really incredible listening to all the stories within this book. And that if the world if things were brought back into balance, that the wand, the flowering wand, the force of creativity rather than the force of cutting and dissecting of the sword, which has been that has been kind of the dominant force for a long time. And what if rather than the sword, and thinking of any war and weapons and ways of cutting, removing, isolating, dissecting things, which has its place, but it's just too much of it. And what if the creativity and the nature connectedness, the fluid life energy that the wand presents, which is also, the wand is also willpower, being able to create something and bring it into the world. That's like a fiery wand thing to do. And the pencil or a brush is, I realized listening to the book, it's like, this is like a wand as well. It's like an act of creativity, and it's so interesting. So I'm really interested in this book at the moment. I think that's what I'll say for now. Andreev222 had a discussion of a similar topic with a Catholic friend recently. He's finding his own beliefs now, and I mentioned my current focus on being connected and in sync with nature, like we're meant to be. We are part of nature. We are also animals, and we exist together with everything on this wonderful planet that we have. Yeah, so that is a really great thing to realize and discover. And I remember it was part of like when I was traveling, and I remember I had kind of went out into the world, and I was having all these new experiences and meeting all these different people, and the big thing that got me like not feeling good about, at least I know there are lots of different ways to perceive any kind of sacred text and tradition, and there may be value in each of them, but the dogmatic kind of, if those people don't think what we think, they're not as good and they will suffer forever, and we are much better. And that's like a very problematic way of thinking. And I remember having this chat in Budapest with an American guy who was talking about his church, and I was like, but how do you like reconcile the fact that the church thinks everyone's going to go to hell who doesn't believe in this one particular way of thinking things. Because that was definitely the message that was in the church that I was a part of as a kid. So it was all great, community and stuff, but nearly everyone's going to hell. And that was just something doesn't make sense to me. But I have science and non-duality, the topic of non-duality, has given me new kind of insight and appreciation into all aspects of life, and something very interesting that I heard from a great teacher, which I think it was Christopher Wallace, Harish, who said that everyone does, and I think this is probably from a lot of places, like everyone responds to situations with the best tools that they have available at the time and a certain way of thinking. And if we learn things in certain ways, then we may pass things on reflexively without considering what we're doing, because it's just what we were taught. And I feel like I was in an interesting situation of my parents didn't grow up going to church. They decided to go to church, and then we were in the church, and then I was kind of like, no, but there are things that feel pretty dissonant. And what this book is saying is just super interesting. Marie said, this piece reminds me of one of my favorite artists, Kees van Dongen. Cool. Baba Gabriela, happy Easter. Welcome spring and summer. And Rave222 says, and how I feel we're generally being guided away from it, but especially religion has had its part in demonizing it as witchcraft. Yeah. Rupert Spira. I was reading non-duality stuff for quite a while too. Yeah, it's so interesting. So interesting. Because kind of reflexively, I guess, initially there was this kind of move away from what I felt was just the intolerance of the church. But then there was this one book I read called Tantra Illuminated, and it kind of put it into a context where it was like being able to differentiate or to have a system of understanding that is already, that is also important. And it's just like a step onto the path of, it can be important. So it's like every belief system serves its place at a given time, I guess. And that sometimes we can realize that, the things that the way they are maybe not so good. And it's also interesting to find the truth within it. Like there is this underlying connective love and forgiveness and connectedness, and that sometimes is like that's in a lot of ideas and religions, and that's something that kind of gets lost in dogmatism and othering. Like when these ideas get used to place one group above another, then something's gone wrong. Or to place people above the environment, as though it is just something to serve us. And I think that is super problematic, because then people think, it's ours to use, and it's being used to the detriment of life on this planet. So this book and Sophie Strand's work and Bayoko Malafi, it's very good, and it feels like a very good time to be kind of enlivening these ideas and understandings, and also just the non-dual awareness of the interrelatedness of things and how things relate and how we learn and grow. Very interesting. What stuff were you reading, Wolverine? If you don't want to tell me here, you can write to me. But I found the book Tantra Illuminated by Christopher Wallace, also known as Harish, that was so interesting, and so it like it it's a weighty book. It's very big, and it's focused on Kashmir Shaiva Tantra, and talks a lot about the traditions and the practices of a 1,000-year-old, more than 1,000-year-old, but the texts that this book is based upon are 1,000-year-old Sanskrit texts, and it's really cool. Oh, Rupert Spira. I have not. Yeah, I didn't recognize that name, so I'll check it out. Thank you. What? 40 minutes? This has already been 40 minutes. After doing those 2-minute portraits before here, and now this is like longer. But I'm home alone. And so I could do the webinar. I can just kind of expand into this at the moment. And I was talking in the Exploring Possibilities webinar about sometimes something in 2 minutes is perfect and great. And then sometimes you can be spending a lot longer on something and be like, it's asking more of us, that we kind of have to invest more of ourselves to bring it to a place where we really, where it has become what it's going to become, which is, super interesting process. That how something so brief can be feel so complete, and that sometimes something which becomes more expansive just asks more of us to become what it's going to become. And the dance between those different ways of working and seeing things is really interesting. Beverly, you have to go. This is pretty long. This has been pretty long, but thank you so much for being here. And Sophie Strand also posted something about Easter today, and how the empire co-opted the revolutionary ideas of Christianity and just bent it to serve to dominate. So there's like a seed of revolutionary truth and forgiveness and acceptance within the very formalized and, as history has shown, very violent institution. That it took something wonderful, and I still see benefits, like the community. There are things that are so important and so beneficial to us, things that are essential. Community, like hanging out here together and painting and drawing together. And I feel like something that was really powerful at church was singing together. And I think that is something that is so special. I'm going to draw a little bit into the eyes, and maybe this will be almost done for today. It might almost be bedtime. And it's interesting how a lot of things that have seeked movements, let's say, that have seeked to kind of co-opt, to take over things which are essential and important, like community and singing and dancing, any kind of creative expression that has just been absorbed into the the dogma of whether it be a spiritual or a political way of thinking. That there are core things which are part of being alive, not even being a person, just of being living, of having the freedom of expression and creativity. These wonderful things that we all access, and sometimes those things are taken and like packaged and bent into a certain way of thinking. And it's like you can exercise that, you can do that, but only when you do it with us. And this was something in my youth that a lot of things that I thought were interesting, the church was like, no. Those interesting things are the devil. And you'll go to hell if you follow that interesting path. And it's like, what? So it's like that's the case of the institution, the church, taking something which is like curiosity and ideas of self-reflection and self-experience, and being like, those things are bad. Do not do them, because you will die and be in agony forever. And it's like, really? That's terrifying. But it's just interesting. Why should that interesting, and curiosity and love and passion and life and stories, and sometimes it's just stories, like the story of Dionysus, to be like, he was not, it's so interesting. There's so many interesting things. This eye is up too high, but it's kind of in the dark and I can move it around. So everyone can create. And it's often, and I also, in various ways, at certain times, were made to think that no, you can't, you're not good at it, or you can, but only in this way. And it's like, there are many ways in which this kind of wonderful thing that we all have access to, if we're able to explore and try, and whether it just be like drawing a face. And I know for so many people it's like, and I know myself, the uncomfortable feeling of creating something, being like, nah, this doesn't look as how I want it to. But if you're able to engage in it in a playful way, and then you're like, oh, it doesn't look how I want it to, but it's different, it's interesting in another way, and just that playfulness and the repetition and the exploration can lead to such interesting things happening, and it can lead to meeting all of you on the internet. And that sense of being connected to someone who was arrested 100 years ago. That Faye here, that we're sitting here present with this person that we don't know, but we know a little of her story, and we get to kind of partake in the shared experience of, who knows what series of decisions led to the arrest of Faye and what was going on in her life. She is also a person trying to figure things out, doing the best with the resources she has available. What are people saying? Karina, you learn so much about life listening to me. That's great. Learning is so good. And Karina says, one of the core principles of neurolinguistic programming is that all human beings at all times are doing the best they can with the resources they have. That's it. It's so good, isn't it? And it's, we can expand upon this. And I did a 10-minute portrait once of Gabor Mate and talking about intergenerational trauma. And something I've also been exposed to recently is the idea of intergenerational healing. And it's like, because there was this focus on trauma for a long time, and it's real, and you can't compare pain, and people have their things that they're dealing with. And I've been able to learn some things about my family and just things historically and in the sense of a nation, that if people have gone from one side of the world to the other side of the world to start a new life, then back at the place where they came from, things were probably not working out so well for them. And they've taken whatever challenges they had with them and taken them to the other side of the world. It's not a blank slate. There's still things they're dealing with. And then starting to get an appreciation for that there are then these coping mechanisms that people have, and they may be destructive and terrible, but it's how they manage to get by, and it's not okay. And that, any healing that can be done is super important, and you can't just keep doing those things. But I have come to realize and appreciate that there have been key things in my family history where there's been like a decision to stop like the generational trauma. And I am very appreciative of that. And that is the thing which I just recently discovered and heard on the Sounds of Sand podcast, talking about that idea of like intergenerational healing, and that making decisions to do things better, that is something which then activates something within us and can be passed on. So we can keep learning, and we can keep, doing the best we can with the resources available. Martina says, I know maybe Dylan should start a podcast. Maybe this is it. This is the new format. It's the draw along life show. You need my brain inside your head. It's even better to have it outside. You've got your brain, and we can exchange ideas, and we are like a mycelial network of ideas, feeding each other, nourishing each other, and uplifting each other. We have so many brains. Okay. Rave, you think your other comment got hidden because there was a swear word or something, but you said you still go to church when you can, get up in the morning, which is rare because you like to go and sing. Yes, the community, the singing, the raising of voice. And that's something I realized, that my dear mother, when we had kids, and I was like, sing to the kids. And I realized that I grew up with her singing at church, and I thought, of course, Mum can sing. But then when her voice was on her own, and I love you very much, Mum, if you're watching this, it was very interesting to notice that within the community, there was the support and the place to sing, and then you experience yourself and your voice, your body resonating with all these other bodies and voices, and it's such a special experience. And then to be, okay, now do it on your own, was kind of like... And I was like, but you sung to us, you sung at church. And she suddenly removed from that context, it was very difficult. And I know a lot of people find it really difficult to sing. And it's such a special thing. Thank you, Linda. This is so beautiful, Dylan. You're so beautiful, Linda. The very old building of the church. Yeah, those are so interesting as well. Churches usually don't preach fear and damnation here. It's usually very chill. Apparently the church yoga too. It's cool. I think I saw something about that. Is that in Denmark? I saw something about this. A woman priest who's teaching yoga at church. Really cool. Yeah, the myth of normal is really good. Yeah, that was really interesting. He does have a lot of good talks, Gabor Mate. I've listened to a lot of podcasts, Martina. So that's what's coming through. When I draw and work, when I clean the house, when I drive the car, I listen to things that I find uplifting and powerful, which is important to be able to access such things, because there's a whole lot which isn't uplifting and powerful. And I'm also very aware of that. And that's part of the thing. It's like being aware, but being aware of these other things as well. And, so interesting. Being able to share is really important. And to know that no one is, even if we feel isolated in our thoughts and our experiences, that there's probably someone else feeling the same thing at the very same time. It may be on the other side of the world. And whether that's joy or suffering. And that kind of realization that we're all connected and we are part of this wonderful nature, sharing this planet together. And that we have, if we have the resources available to be able to care for each other, then, and to try and find understanding, then that's pretty special. And it's not always the case, and we can't always access it. And sometimes things just suck so much. But it's good to be able to have these, these places and these moments, and also things to reflect upon when it does suck, and to be like, oh, but there's, this interesting chat I had with people online. I'm doing most of the talking, but I appreciate that you're all here. Used to sing in the church choir for 7 years or something as a job. I keep saying my voice is not meant for solo singing. Yeah. I sing a lot by myself. I sing the kids to sleep. And it's good, but the experience of singing collectively, of feeling each other is so special. So I have all these instruments, and occasionally I'll just play a bit. I'm not super good at anything, but there have been times when I've been able to make music with people together, and it's like when you connect and you're making sounds that fit together, and it's like it has a life to it. It's such an amazing feeling. And that's something that I've thought, there's something direct, immediate, and powerful about music that I feel it's not in the solitary process of doing a painting, which is incredible and beautiful and connecting, but that's why I love this and the community aspect of making things together, and that you're drawing along with me, even though we're not making the same image at the same time, but we're here together, we're practicing the same thing together, and there's something just about knowing that and seeing your work when you share it, if you share it, to know that we're all out there doing this thing. And I've wondered, I see freestyle rappers who see something, see a person, and they just respond to it, and it's wow, it's so engaging, it's so direct, they're just instantaneous. Or music, there's so many things about it that's this direct effect that it has, and there's something very slowed down of the process of doing a portrait, a painting, a drawing, which doesn't have that a immediate just rhyming off the fly rhythm that you can just touch, do something emotional in such a direct way. But there is, once it's done, then there may be the opportunity that someone sees it and they have some kind of connection to it. But there's something about it's just interesting thinking about this now, about the choir, the idea of making something together. And I've been doing this mural with kids the past week, and I've felt something there, we're here and we're making something together, and it's something for the community. And these kids are involved. They're bringing their process to it, their likes and dislikes. They're having an emotional experience. Sometimes they're arguing, and hey, you painted on my thing, and oh, I'm not doing this. It isn't right. And it's oh, but we can make it. We can keep going. It's going to change. And something of sharing this process with people is. It just seems like such a special thing. And I would, in whatever way people are able to connect and share these kind of creative, connected experiences, connecting to each other, connecting to ourselves, it's a gift. A gift to ourselves and a gift to those we connect to. A shared wonderful experience. So thank you. I like this conversation. I like this portrait. May take the record of being the longest of the daily portrait practices, and so interesting after all of the brief spontaneous. But that was the idea, was it exploring possibilities, and this has been a piece which, after the 2-minute and 15-minute pieces, this has has asked more of me. There's more going into it. And this conversation is now part of this portrait, which will be special. And your contributing to the colors that I should use is also a special part of this one. So thank you everyone for being here. Martina says, oh wait a minute. Wolverine said, we're just being distracted so much, it's hard to resist and important to do so. Martina said, this will take me back to my anthropological studies at university. Thank you for that. You're welcome. Thank you for being here and participating. And Krista says, I mainly think about my voice is neither interesting or powerful enough for solo. It's good at blending though, which is annoying when I want to talk and be heard. But of course, harmonizing with others is absolutely magical. Love it. I do miss that a lot. I've tried to get back into a choir, but the one I want to join is full. And sometimes, like Kira tried to join a choir and she was like, but the songs they're choosing, like she just didn't resonate with the choice of songs. So I'm finding the right group. That's cool. Bet my kids are going to treasure the memories of you singing for them for the rest of their lives. I hope that they will at least, and I do notice they sing, and it's not like perfect pitch and stuff, but they sometimes, they'll just be like singing to themselves, and I think that's wonderful. Thank you for enjoying this portrait. Thank you everyone so much for the conversation, for joining me in the webinar. And as I mentioned, there will be a replay available. There are 27 of you still here. If you made it to the end of this, put your drawing hand emoji in the chat. I'd love to see it. Brigitte, those 2 sessions made for a great Friday. This is not Good Friday. This is Great Friday. Thank you for making this Friday so great. And I really appreciate you all being here. Thomas, you're very cool. Rachel's got a drawing hand. So I'll just have a look back to, look, this is one I did. This started, what was in ink here was 2 minutes. I did this 2-minute quick sketch, and then I spent another 16 minutes on it, I think, where I expanded. I used some of that ink to just move some gray around, and then I decided to work with pencil, which is something new. I haven't really done this, like ink and pencil together. I wanted to preserve that initial ink, and then decided to use a softer drawing tool to continue. So that was really interesting. If you want to follow along with the process, it'll be in the replay of the webinar. Popcorn, Martina. How do people like their popcorn? Savory or sweet? Or do you put interesting things in your popcorn? There's so many possibilities with popcorn. Two Wells, Brigitte, Lisbeth, Lewis, Eddie, Rev, Kiki, everyone, Nana. Thank you so much. The popcorn emoji is a good idea for when you're watching, not painting. The ink one's reminding you of Fleabag. Corinna, I hope this is a lovely start to your Saturday. Corinna, it's so nice that you're so far ahead time-wise that this is actually already tomorrow for you. And anyone who's watching in the future, watching the replay, thank you so much for being here. You're all great. And I mentioned in the, I don't know if I can do this here, but in the webinar, I put all of these links in the chat. Will this work? No, it's too long. But if you want to, you can join my mentorship, you can join Patreon, join the Discord server. Yeah. Have a wonderful Easter, Ostara, festivities, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, however you spend the coming days. I hope they are full of life and love and creativity, and I look forward to tomorrow when we get to do another piece together. So thank you for being here, and